Welcome back to the sew along. Today we're going to be sewing block 3 and we need to make 4 of these blocks for our quilt. To make this block you will need the QuickScreen Triangle from Vlieseline and you'll need 2 meters of this. And this is what it looks like. You sew onto the more detailed line side and you place the fabric on the back side. We'll also need colour 1, which is our background colour. You will need to cut a total of 4 11-inch by 9.5 inch, 4 lots of 12-inch by 10.25 inch, and 8 lots of 22-inch by 10-inch. We will also need our colour 6, so this is a purple colour for me, and we need to cut 4 lots of 13-inch by 7.5 inch. First thing we're going to do is mark out our sewing lines and our guidelines onto the QuickScreen Triangle, and then I'll be showing you how to piece this block. We'll be doing these 2 parts here, so they're diagonally opposite each other, and then press that open, and then we will add these 2 bits. So it's not too complicated and a lovely block to finish on, and we need to make 4 of these for our quilt. So the first thing we're going to do for the block 3 is cut out our square on our Vlieseline QuickScreen Triangle interfacing. We want to cut an 18.5 inch square, so what I'm going to do first is mark them out with a pen so that we know that we're cutting accurately. So I've started measuring right down here in this corner. I've started with halfway through a triangle, like that, mark a line, measure 18.5 inches along and mark a line. Then measure 18.5 inches up, mark a line, do the same for that corner and join them all together to create your square. And this is the size of the block when it is finished. Not sewn together finished, but finished at the end of making this block. The next thing we're going to do is mark our diamond in the middle of the block. So what I want you to do down here is start in this corner and measure the bottom points of the triangle. So when you get to 12, that's where we stop. So I've got 1 here, bottom point of a triangle, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Then I've marked a point there. And then we're going to go up 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is the bottom point of your diamond. So that is the bottom point of your diamond. We're then going to go up these sides by 10. So I've got 10 triangles. I'm counting 1 each time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and mark a point there. And do the same for this side and mark a point there. Then you can go up 10 again each side and it will take you to the top of your diamond block. Then we just want to join these lines and that is where our main diamond is going to be. You can then cut this square out. If you want, you can do it exactly on the lines, but if you want to leave this little bits of excess and trim it down later, that is completely fine. Once we have all our marks done on this side, we are going to turn it over to this side. And this is the side we'll be laying the fabric on. So we're going to take our C6 piece. And this piece is 13 inches by 7.5 and we're going to lay it on top of that diamond. And you can line it up here and just make sure it goes 1/4 inch over that line and make sure it's covering all of those edges. So you can look down in this corner and make sure that's fully covered. That edge is covered, that edge is covered, and those points are covered. And that's the first part done. We're then going to lay a colour 1 rectangle in a top corner. It doesn't matter what top corner you do first, and we'll be using our 11" by 9.5" piece, and I will do it in this corner. And then what we want to do is just fold it back till we see that line of our diamond. Just make a little crease and we can use that as our guide. So we're going to lay the fabrics right sides together and just making sure it goes 1/4 inch over that line that we folded. And we want to tuck it up so that it's overlapping the edge here, the edge of where we drew our 18" square. So we can see here that this point here is covered and it goes all the way to that end, and then we're going to pin it in place. I'm just going to pop a couple of pins in now, and then I will flip it over and add a few more pins because we will be sewing on the other side. So you can see here it's just past this line that we're going to stitch. I'm going to add one in the middle. I'm just going to take that one out from that side and pop it in this side. And the same for this one. Then we're going to take it over to the sewing machine and we're going to sew the full length of that line that we've drawn, and we're going to start and finish a few stitches over. So about 1/8 inch before, full line 1/8 inch after. And this is what it'll look like when it's done. It's stitched from there all the way down past that corner there. And we can flip it over. If you have a lot of excess seam allowance, you can fold back the interfacing and just trim down the excess from 1/4 inch past the seam line. Then we can open that back up and fold that back. You can finger press that in place or just use a seam roller. And then we're going to work on the diagonally opposite corner. So we're going to work down here on the other side of the diamond. For the opposite corner, we are going to need our 12 by 10.25 inch piece. And we're going to line it up just like we did the last one, with our longest side. We're going for that line here, in line, just 1/4 inch over the line. And we're going to shimmy it all the way up here so that we're just going a little bit past this corner here. So we're aiming to cover this section here. Fully. So you can test it by folding back onto the line, and you can see that this section would be covered by the fabric. So then we're going to do the same. We can clip it in place and flip it over and fully clip it in on that side. So I'm just going to put a few in just to hold it all in place while I flip it. Then pop one there. And then we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to take it over to our sewing machine. Make sure it's all lovely and flat. And we're going to start sewing just a little bit beyond this corner, this line, all the way down there and a little bit further. And we're just going to do the same as we did before. We're going to fold that back, finger press that in place and make sure everything is nice and smooth. Then we're going to add the two side edges. For For this you'll need your 22" by 10" pieces, and we are going to work on this top part, and we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're just going to carefully fold it back along that line of the diamond, continuing the line to the edge of the blocks like that. Go, and that's the seam line we're going to be sewing on, so we know we're going to just place our fabric 1/4 inch over that, and just make sure you're covering the edges of the blocks as well. There's not too lopsided like that. That is over. Just make sure everything is nice and smooth and flat, and then we're going to pin that in place again. Just going to pin a couple, and then I will flip it over to the side we'll be sewing on and rearrange the pins. If you're unsure if you've gone over the line, you can place your pins on this line and then check it by folding it over again to check you've got seam allowance past where the pins are. So my pins here are on the line we're about to sew. And oh, actually that is a bit too skinny. So what I'm going to do, it looks like it's okay this end, but I've probably got it a little bit wonky. So let's just take these last two out. Let's try that and see what happens there. Where's the line? There. Still think I can move that up a bit more. Might have to take that one out as well. That is okay. It's important to take your time and get it right before we sew. That looks a bit better. Let's just... Yeah, I'm happy with that. Let's add all those other pins in. And then we're going to take it to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew all the way from this top corner here where our block markings are, all the way, just continue on that line all the way down till you reach the just past the corner of the outer side of your block markings. Okay, and this is what it looks like when it's done, and we will have to fold that back and trim down those excess parts. So just fold it back along where you've just sewn it and trim that down to 1/4 inch. And then we can open up the block, fold the fabric back. We can give that a press, but we can sort that out a bit more at the end. And then we're going to do the same thing again, but for the other side. So just fold that back to give us our line to guide us. It's there. Align our fabric on top again, 1/4 inch over that crease and making sure it covers both ends. Then we're going to pin that in place, flip it over and sew along the line. And just like we did before, we're going to sew from right just before our block's outer starts, all the way down that line and right through to the other side. And when that's done, you can give it all a press and trim down to the 18.5-inch outer square that we did right at the start. And then it will look like this. And you have to make 4 of these for your finished quilt.